Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for August 7th, 2025. Well, I got to tell you, I'm kind of scratching my head here this morning with 50% tariffs going on to India, reciprocal tariffs now in effect here in the United States. Volume has been dropping in the market, breadth has been dropping in the market, and yet racing here to the upside. So let's take a look at what happened overnight and see if we can figure this out. First off, Asian markets last night having a good day. Asian markets mostly higher here overnight and continuing to look quite bullish. Well, you know, everywhere in the world, despite tariffs, it's as if, well, if we raise the tariffs, things get better in the markets. We've got Australian markets here. This was the only major Asian market that was just slightly lower, down $12.30 or 0.14%. We saw Hong Kong coming in up 171 points or 0.69%. South Korea 29.54. Higher by 0.92%. We've got the Nikkei up 264.29 or 0.65%. We've got India higher by 21.95 or 0.09%, and Shanghai up $5.67 or 0.16%. So they seem to be pretty happy over there despite the tariffs. If we take a look at European markets this morning, we have just a slight mix here in the market, but the DAX is zooming this morning. Right now, the DAX is up 406 points, 1.70%. We're seeing the FTSE down this morning, $35.52 or 0.39%, and the CAC being higher by 95.73, 1.25% higher here this morning. Looking at U.S. futures, we are smoking hot with the Dow futures looking at a gap up right now of over 264 points and stretching. If we take a look at S&P 500 futures, they're up 41.50 this morning, and NASDAQ futures smoking hot 180 points higher here this morning, and still ticking up as I'm watching it right now. So amazing bullishness here this morning, and it doesn't seem to be having any impact on these tariffs. Just hurry up and buy something. If we take a look at some other markets here in around the world, well, here in the U.S. mostly, but if we take a look at our bond yields are moving up here this morning just a touch. We've got the 2-year bonds coming in at 3.71%, 10-year bonds 4.24%, and the 30-year bonds up 4.81% here this morning. If we take a look at how that's impacting our U.S. dollar, you can see the dollar here trying to hold a little bit of low. Was pushing down yesterday. We ended up breaking back down here, broke that neckline lower here. So we need to see this turn right around in here if we're going to hold this bottoming pattern. You can see we might still catch some trend right in here on this bottoming pattern. So watch that in the US dollar. But right now the dollar down, up just 1 penny here on the day in the dollar futures. If we were to take a look at the impact of that on precious metals here this morning, we take a look at gold. Gold is higher here this morning. Now, GLD is showing quite a pop and drop in here on the pre-market, but we're still holding a pretty strong bullish move here in gold futures, up $14.50 an ounce, 3,447.90 an ounce here this morning, and showing some strength as that dollar may be shaking a little bit of concern in these commodity prices. If we take a look at silver also moving up here this morning. We've got silver futures coming in up 62, almost 63. We just hit 63 an ounce, just hit 64 an ounce, 64 cents an ounce, up at 38.55 an ounce here this morning. So keep an eye on that. And then if we take a look at other precious metals, copper, taking a look at, copper miners here, COPX stretching to the upside. That was moving down yesterday, reversed, hammering in here and pushing on up to challenge this next resistance level in the chart on COPX. If we take a look at like FCX is also trying to make a move, still being challenged by this major area resistance here in the chart. And then if we look at platinum, well, platinum is still moving higher here this morning. It's interesting. We've got the PPLT showing a little bit of a pop and drop, but it is just tiny bit higher here. Looking at $6.60 an ounce higher here this morning, 0.49%. And palladium, after a really rough day yesterday, also bouncing up just a little bit, $19.40 an ounce, 1.69%. Now, keeping in mind both of those, palladium and platinum, are in short patterns here in the market. If we take a look at the impact here on cryptos, it's a benefit to cryptos here if the dollar stays weak. And we've got Bitcoin moving higher here this morning, following through with a good strong day yesterday. Right now up 829.53 a coin, or 0.72% on Bitcoin this morning. Ether is zooming here this morning, and a very, very bullish pattern. You might want to keep an eye on this, and it may pop through some resistance up here and start pushing up toward those all-time highs here in Ether. We're up 132.36 this morning, or 3.60%. We're green across the board in those cryptos. We are just partying hard here this morning. And I'm just struggling with, really struggling with where this bullishness is coming from in the dropping volume and low breadth. And we'll look at that in just a second. Let's take a look at oil prices here this morning. If we take a look at USO, we've got oil prices moving just slightly higher here, up 50 cents a barrel this morning. Yesterday we were strongly higher and then ended up selling off all day long, ending up with a pretty substantial bearish engulfing pattern there on USO. We may be at a point where we could lose this support right in here. So bouncing up this morning, it's going to be critical to see if that holds. Right now, 64.85 a barrel. Brent crude this morning at 67.37 a barrel. Natural gas had a little bit of a bounce back up and was looking better than it was first starting out the day, trying to push up here and challenge this downtrend again in the chart. But this morning, we've got natural gas down not quite a penny, but it is a little bit lower here this morning. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these charts and see how this is looking here on the day. Remember, we want to shake off that bias, and although I am really scratching my head here this morning, trying to figure out where all this bullishness is coming from, I want to shake off that bias as well as I want to look at these charts for what they are, not for what I want them to be or for what you want them to be, and it helps me make better decisions on the day. Let's take a look at the diamonds chart here. The Dow pushing back, getting a good big gap up here this morning. So we're going to see a gap up here today to maybe test the upside of that consolidation in here to see if we can pop on through that resistance. And if we can pop on through that area of resistance, then I would start looking up here for that opportunity. We test this next resistance higher. So let me see if I can draw that a little bit straighter in here. We'll watch to see if we can pop through there and then pop on up into this area of resistance of the chart. If we can get through there, then we're probably looking at retesting recent highs, and then all-time highs here in the diamonds could be right behind that. One thing I think is important to pay attention to is that we've been declining in this volume all the way up. So that's a little bit odd to me to see this stretch going on in here and seeing the weakness here in the volume. So one of the things I would also suggest is be really, really careful on this gap up this morning. It really is that potential that we could whipsaw this dramatically, gap up to the high, close to the high of the day, and then see a pullback occurring with this low of volume. But if the bears were to have anything to say, well, first thing, gapping up here this morning, they've added an extra layer of support underneath there. So any selling here today first is going to be challenged by this area of price support. And if we were to break that, I think then we're going to start moving on down in these patterns to see where we're going to catch some support in here. And certainly there's multiple places where we could catch price support in here if we were to pull back. Now remember, if that were to occur, we're still creating a lower high here in the market. So I would caution everyone about chasing stocks into those resistance levels of the chart, because we're in those places where failures could still occur and we could begin a little bit of that bearish pattern in here overall. Now if we take a look at the SPY is just ripping here this morning. Another gap up here this morning, stretching on through. This is a pattern that I've recognized for years and years, and this is not in any book, candlestick book out there. I call it a Fig Newton pattern, the Fig Newton cookie. We've got the cookie on either side and the dark center there in the middle. Those tend to follow through to the upside, and that is certainly happening here this morning with a big gap up here this morning and a stretch. So looking at this chart, if the bulls can continue that inspiration, and there's certainly reason that we could with all of the earnings that we have coming today, we'll want to keep an eye on that. But you can see could stretch up here and retest these all-time highs easily in the SPY here today, and maybe even break out to all-time highs. So we've already cleared these hurdles in resistance here on the SPY, and the same on the QQQ, where we're stretching up strongly here, just piling into these big tech giants, pushing through all of the resistance that we have. In fact, this morning we're gapping up even through that little area of the chart. So all we have left is this big black candle and the high of that, and we are at new record highs in the QQQ. So if the bears were to have anything to say here, pushing back, maybe we look at filling this gap, and if that doesn't hold, then we might come down here and test this area of support. And if that's all we do, if we just pull back into there, no harm to this chart, no technical harm to this chart. It would be if we broke lower than that, then I would think it would raise some concerns. And I would say the same thing here for the SPY. Pulling back here to test in this area, I don't think that hurts anything at all. As a matter of fact, I think it could come all the way back down into here, not hurt anything at all in the SPY. On that chart, it would be if we broke those levels lower. That's where the concern will come in. If we take a look at our IWM, well, IWM breaking through resistance here this morning as well, but you will want to keep in mind IWM still has significant work to do here. We've got some resistance right through the underneath side of that price action there, and then of course right up into here. If we can pass through this, well then we're going to be starting to stretch up toward these next areas of price resistance here in the chart. If the bears have anything to say, well, a pushback here, maybe retest this area as support, and then we'd start moving back down to test some of these levels. Again, I don't think it would make any kind of major difference to the market unless we were to break down below that area. That would raise some concern here in the chart. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX did pull back yesterday. Pulling back was showing that there is no fear despite the dropping volume and the weak breadth in the market. Market shows no concern over that whatsoever. Just get out of my way. I want to buy stuff. And pulling back. So let's watch this carefully in here. Remember, we still have that possibility that this holds that higher low in here on the chart. And that's one of those places where real selling could occur. So if we happen to whipsaw this today, then that possibility in this pullback in here, that still creates that higher low, and that would maybe raise some fear. But for now, stay with the bullish trend. It is a remarkably bullish trend no matter what happens. We're pretty darn happy here in the market. If we take a look at our T21 22, the T2122 indicator, this is another thing that was interesting yesterday as we were continuing to stretch up. T2122 was registering that there were more stocks making new 4-week lows than there were those making new 4-week highs yesterday. So this is a very centric into the tech sector that is moving the market, and you can see all that bullishness yesterday was still showing a pullback here in T2122. But you can see we finished the day right in here around the midpoint here of T2122. So the bulls have plenty of upside room to push here, and my goodness, they're doing it here in the pre-market, really getting a big shove here to try and inspire a whole bunch of buying this morning. If the bears were to fight back in here, I just want to point out that we've got about an equal opportunity for those bears if they have any kind of teeth at all. And so far, we haven't seen much of that. If we take a look at our T2108, yesterday's bullishness in the market, T2108 actually hooked over, finished a little bit lower on the day, right in there around 45% here in the stock. So this big bullish push this morning, I would look for that push up here toward that 50% area, and probably even beyond that if this is going to be real. Pushing beyond here, we may stretch on up toward 60%. Remember, up here in the 70% area, we start getting a little bit frothy, but hey, every reason to believe that we could be up there the way the market's acting. And if the bears have anything to say here today, well, we've got a little bit of support right in here around 40%, and failing through there, I would suggest that possibility we could fall pretty hard if those bears were to re-engage in here on T2108. But I do want to point out the fact that T2108 did not advance yesterday with that bullishness and that low volume. T2107, same thing. Percentage of stocks above the 200-day did not advance yesterday. Flat to lower here at the end of the day. But we're pumping it big time in the pre-market, so let's look for that next area of resistance above. I would say up here 45%, and there's easily, with this bullishness that I'm seeing this morning, if there's a volume to follow this, I could see us breaking right up in here toward that 50% of the stocks above their 200-day. Remember, we broke this trend in here, so there's a little bit of a double whammy of resistance right here that we'll want to be dealing with. If the bears were to have anything to say and push back, let's see if we can test back into this area of price support. If that fails, then I would suggest we're probably moving a little bit lower down here into these levels on T2107. Now, T2101 really saw breadth decline yesterday on that big bullish move. So this sets us up with this big stretch. If we don't see a big change in breadth here, where that bullish breadth really comes flying in here to support this price, we are perfectly set up for a major whipsaw. A big pullback in the market. It is a classic bull trap that could be set here if we're not going to see that breadth pick up. If the breadth continues to weaken today on this big pop this morning, then I would be watching for that pullback to occur, or whipsaw to occur at any time. So keep a close eye on this. If you're a bull, we need to see that volume come in. We need to see that breadth coming up here in the market, or we could see a failure at lower highs in our indexes. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, it's a little bit busier than what we've had here just recently, but not overly busy here this morning. We got those normal jobless claims here this morning, and of course in jobless claims it can always be market moving. Right now consensus is suggesting 220,000 coming in there on those claims, so keep an eye on that this morning. Remember the jobs report, the employment situation report, raised some concerns about jobs. We'll see if it starts to pick up here, which it really hasn't done much of pickup in here on jobless claims. So watch that carefully. We've got productivity and costs in here. Productivity and costs coming in, they're expecting here in the consensus to improve from a negative 1.5 to a positive 1.9, and unit labor costs, they're expecting that to decline from 6.6 to 2.1. That's bullish for business, so watch that carefully on that number. We've got Bostic speaking here today. We've got wholesale inventories. They're looking at that to come in at a 0.2. That's up from a negative 0.3, so watch that carefully on wholesale prices. Natural gas will be reporting today, and then we've got several bond auctions. It will be particularly notable to pay attention to the 30-year bond auction. They really, the 10-year note auction yesterday really did not go well. So it'll be interesting to see if those long bonds can get some interest for buying in here. We've got a consumer credit report at 3 o'clock, and then, of course, the Fed balance sheet. Looking into Friday, boy, a really light day here. We've got some Fed speak, and we've got a Baker Hughes rig count, so nothing major to worry about there. On the earnings calendar, it is a busy one. This is going to be the busiest day of the week. Over 350 companies reporting today. I don't have that many on this list. These are the notables for the day. So you'll want to be keeping a close eye on here, looking through these today. Make sure you pause the video, grab yourself a screenshot of this if you're interested in following along on these. There's a few of these earnings that are notable here this morning that have already occurred. Eli Lilly coming a little bit undone here this morning, breaking some pretty substantial areas of price support. Big strong move to the downside. But one of the things that we have seen here lately, that doesn't matter. As soon as the market opens, they push them right back up. So watch that carefully. We're going to hear from stocks like Crocs here this morning. Looks like it's looking just a little bit lower at the moment. Datadog reporting this morning. So keep an eye on some of these reports here today. Could be some significant movement in these prices. As we look forward here on the day, let's take a peek at some stocks that could be setting up. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I do truly appreciate it. And remember, guys, that these aren't recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence on anything we talk about here today. So kind of keep that in mind. So thank you so much for everyone who does support the channel in here. I do truly appreciate it, and continues to leave those comments. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much. Let's take a look at some of these charts quickly here this morning. Take a look at General Motors. General Motors, I put this trend out here, but I had no idea where that trend is going to be, just as a reference. And you can see we're still trying to figure out in General Motors how we're going to break this resistance in the chart. But we're still holding very, very bullish here. A bullish day like we've got going today could easily fire that up, and we might push on through to the upside. Keep an eye on General Motors. Keep an eye on JP Morgan. JP Morgan is still in a little bit of a questionable pattern here, and the reason I say that is because of that resistance right here in the chart. But if we're going to fire up and get moving here again, we're going to need those financials to move along here as well. We've got a little bullish push in here. Watch that carefully. If it pops out, could easily get something going there. WDC, Western Digital, this little resting consolidation in here after the gap up on earnings. Looks like it could easily set up in here, continue this long upside trend here in WDC. I would watch for an opportunity there for that to push on higher. Keep a close eye on that. I've been watching this TMUS, T-Mobile in here. You can see we're trying to build a little upside trend going on. We broke this downtrend in here, little resting pullback, kind of a J-hooking type pattern. Keep an eye on that. If that can get a good push here to the upside, I would watch that carefully. I think Abercrombie has been looking really good now. I wouldn't want to chase it here right at this resistance level of the chart. Let it break out or pull back a little bit before potentially getting in on that. If you're already in it, I certainly wouldn't want to sell it here necessarily, unless I just wanted that quick hit right into the resistance of the chart. But Abercrombie really coming around, and we're seeing a lot of retail coming around. Target. Now Target not in a good bullish pattern in my opinion, because we broke support and trend. This is just that impulse wave back up. If this were to run into resistance in here, this is exactly where you would look for or be watching for that potential failure. But if this were to consolidate or rest in here, then I'd be keeping an eye on that for that potential move. Take a look at RTX. I've got an alert here on RTX. Beautiful consolidating pattern in here. Looks very similar to all of these other patterns that you see, and every reason to believe that that could push on through here to the upside with a little bit of bullishness in the market. Shopify, after its big earnings report yesterday, popping through that alert all at once here in the chart. If you caught into this trade prior to that, congrats. What a move. Now wait for a little rest or pullback here to look for your entry into that trade. Take a look at Marvel. Marvel had a really strong pop-up, pulled back with all of this volatility in the market, but we're holding right in here on this trend. So I would watch that carefully with the bullishness of the market today. Maybe this finds that inspiration, pushes on higher here in the market, worth paying attention to. You gotta like the way TTD is looking here. Nice bullish upside trend going on in here. We broke through my alert here in the chart, and we have a big open gap that could be filled. A good bullish move here in the market. I see that opportunity that could stretch right on up through that area of the chart. So keep an eye on that. Still seeing Dollar Tree continuing to move to the upside. We did rest here a little bit yesterday, but every reason to believe that could continue to move. As you remember, I've been mentioning Mickey D's in here. It popped nice on its earnings, but not such a big pop. It may not, it's probably still buyable in here. And particularly if we got just a little bit of rest on this, then I would look for that next opportunity there in Mickey D's. Take a look at Microsoft. This resting pullback in here is setting up a very bullish pattern in here. So every reason to believe that Microsoft could make that move with this bullish energy that we have this morning. It would be if we whipsaw back down, that would be a little bit of a problem. Take a look at some of these uranium plays. I'm holding UEC here, and UEC continues to be very, very bullish, breaking through some big areas of resistance up here. Watch that carefully on UEC. Any little resting pullback would set up an opportunity there. You could take a look at come on, let's get CCJ in here. CCJ pushing back up. It's still got to challenge this resistance up here, so don't chase it, but watch that carefully in here. If that can hold and set up a pattern. UUUU also very bullish here, trying to find that little higher low in here, that possibility that we could resume that upside trend here on that higher low. So watch that carefully here in the market. I think that possibility does still exist. Cisco looking very good, popping my alert in here, starting to stretch on up. Yep, I'd keep an eye on that. Walmart had a whopper of a day yesterday. We saw a lot of these defensive sector consumer discretionary stocks really getting a good push yesterday, and I don't know if that's a little bit of a rotation. I don't know, but watch that carefully here. Any rest or pullback would set up an opportunity there. Take a look at Google yesterday. Google had a really good day. I'm trying to go fast here because I'm out of time, but Google here trying to break through this resistance in the chart. Every reason to believe that could continue to push on higher. So there's still tremendously bullish charts all over the place in the market, trying to show that energy in here. So I would just keep an eye on these. I'm still really liking the way Cat's looking in here. That resting pullback, Boeing's still hanging in there. So keep an eye. There's more stocks than you can shake a stick at. But here again, I would be really, really careful and cautious on the weakening breadth here in the market. If it continues to weaken today, be prepared. Be prepared for that potential whipsaw. So with that, everyone, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. Be careful, be safe, and I will see you right back here bright and early Friday morning. I wish you all the best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail, trading with heart where the profits prevail.